Welcome to PDS News. I'm Diane Simmons.
And I'm Trisha.
Our top story today is critical thinking and complex questioning in the classroom.
This is one of the essential issues facing today's schools.
Before this, there was a breaking story happening at Unit 5 High School. Let's hear from Patty, live at the scene.
I'm here live at Unit 5 High School where critical thinking is not taking place. As you can see, the teacher is lecturing and the students are not engaged and are not thinking critically. Bloody hell, they aren't even listening. Who will save the classroom and the day?
Thank you, Patty, for your report. We will update you on this crime scene as we get more information. Today, in our news report, we will be looking at what is critical thinking. What does critical thinking look like in the classroom? What are the benefits of critical thinking, and how to promote critical thinking by using complex questioning.
Moving on to our next segment, so what is critical thinking?
Well, we heard from students and teachers around the country on their thoughts on critical thinking. Let's hear from them now.
I think truly my belief of critical thinking has to do with your value system being changed by what you're learning or what you are able to discern from an environment or from a situation. In mathematics, though, I think there's a lot of slant that makes it more into reasoning and what is reasoning.
In the classroom, when I expect students to use critical thinking, I expect them to try and tackle a problem or learn the material using outside resources, their previous knowledge, material, and real-world applications. And with this, all the kind of support they have in their environment, they try to come up to the conclusion of what we're trying to work with and what we're trying to learn, and that's how they critically think.
Now that we heard from students and teachers on the topic, let's hear from some experts.
Hello, my name is Alex Boldt. We are here to look at the question, what is critical thinking? According to the National Council for Excellence in Critical Thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. This is a very complex definition, so we're going to break it down by seeing what critical thinking looks like in the classroom. Let's hear from a teacher about a time she used critical thinking.
One of the very few times I would say I've challenged my students with something like that is when we've looked at exponential functions and we've looked at exponential growth, and we looked at population, and I had the students research how population is growing, human population, and are there enough resources, and should there be controls over that, which is more of a social science class, so it's a little bit out of my realm, but it was very good for the students to think about that, think about organizations that might control that.
So which one is George Washington? The one in the middle. And how do you know? Yes, you can see the light is shining on George Washington. And what is he doing?
Standing all tall and proud,
And what's in his hand? What is he doing? Can we try and see?
Got a quilt.
So he's holding his commission. He's resigning his commission. This is Congress, and he's holding it out. He's resigning his commission. What about this chair? There's robes on this chair, and it's signifying a throne. Because he could have been king. He could have sat on this throne. He could have had the robes. And he gave it away. And looking at this, you're right. He is portrayed as this leader. The light is shining on him. He's standing upright in the middle. This is very significant. And this happened I mean, when he resigned his commission, he went back to his farm. He went back to Mount Vernon, and he had the intention of never serving public life again. But, I mean, he ended up doing that because that's what the country needed, but he didn't, and this set a precedent. Now, tomorrow we're going to look more into this term of precedent, but basically what a precedent is, it's any act, decision, or case that serves as a guide for justification for later situations. So how he set a precedent was that he gave up his power. So this set a precedent because after George Washington did this, many other leaders would look at George Washington and do what he did. And George Washington looked at Cincinnatus, and this is how Cincinnatus is very important to United States history. And not just to Rome, he's obviously very significant to Rome. Now as we looked at this painting, we're going to look at a picture of a statue of Cincinnatus. What you're going to do, you're going to label symbols related to this statue of Cincinnatus. You're going to illustrate the qualities of a leader for the new Roman Republic. Just like we looked at this painting, you can see George Washington, how he shows that he's a leader. We're going to do the same for Cincinnatus.
As we can see, critical thinking involves asking questions, defining problems, examining evidence, analyzing assumptions and biases, avoiding emotional reasoning, avoiding oversimplification, considering other interpretations, and avoiding ambiguity. Another important skill to have in order to think critically is being aware of one's thinking as one performs specific tasks and in using this awareness to control what one is doing, which is known as metacognition. These skills will allow students to make sound decisions about personal and civil affairs.
Thank you for your expertise on this topic.
Now that we have an understanding about what critical thinking is, let's hear the weather report from our weather woman, Joyce Kinney.
Today's weather in the classroom has started off dreary and stormy because the students are not engaged, are not thinking critically, and are not asking complex questions. However, I predict it will get brighter and sunnier later today with the introduction of critical thinking and complex questioning in the classroom.
So, Joyce, why does the classroom get bright and sunny from critical thinking?
Well, Diane, I'm glad you asked. We interviewed some students, and here's what they had to say about the benefits to critical thinking in their classrooms. Okay. When a teacher says to you that they want you to use critical thinking skills, what does that mean to you?
Taking an extra step, doing more work.
Okay. Do you approach the assignment differently?
Yeah.
How so?
If you mean like the critical thinking, do I approach it differently?
Like the assignment, do you look at it different? Does it make it harder for you? Or do you just treat it the exact same you would a different assignment?
A little different. Like, I probably do a little more work
Okay.
than I usually do.
Okay, what do you think are the benefits of critical thinking?
A better grade.
A better grade? How so?
Because you're actually trying, like when you're researching a project and stuff.
Okay, so you think researching will lead to critical thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I give you a graph to interpret, do you think that's critical thinking?
Yes.
Okay, so it's important in life that you guys have the ability to ask complex questions, gather information, and analyze the data. And that's something that you would do with a graph. And this leads you guys to making informed decisions. So do you see how that leads to all areas of your life and not just in science? Okay, and is there anything in real life you think that happens in?
What, like critical thinking?
Mm-hmm. Can you give me an example of something?
Your job.
Your job, okay. What about a current event? Can you think of anything lately in the news that this has happened with?
Hurricane Sandy.
Hurricane Sandy? Okay. What about the presidential election? Can you see how critical thinking is important there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you think about how critical thinking might be important for you? All right. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. When a teacher says to you that they want you to use critical thinking skills, what does that mean to you? What goes through your head, and do you look at the assignment differently?
Yes, I do look at the assignment differently, and critical thinking to me means putting more down about the question than what the question is asking. So, like, thinking more about your answer and having a longer answer.
What do you think are the benefits of critical thinking? What do you think you get out of it?
You probably understand the assignment more. and you kind of understand the assignment more because you're thinking about it harder, and yeah.
Okay. Do you think it is important in life to have the ability to ask complex questions, to gather information, or to analyze the data and make informed decisions? Do you see how that could be beneficial to you in all areas of your life and not just in the science classroom?
Yes. Because if...
Go ahead.
Yes? What's the name of the question?
Complex questions.
Yeah, if you ask complex questions, I think you're going to get a more complex answer, which will provide more information for what you're doing, so you'll get more out of it.
Can you give me a real-world example or a current event of where critical thinking can play an important role in making an informed decision?
Sending troops over to Iraq or wherever for a war, I think, would be a good example. So you have to think about why you're doing it, the pros and the cons, if you're actually getting anything out of it, or if you're just wasting money, or what.
Do you think that critical thinking plays an important role in who you vote for president?
Indeed.
Okay. On day 1 of a new unit, I give you guys a graph to interpret. It indicates that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere has increased in the recent decades. I then ask you guys to think through what will happen if this trend in the atmosphere continues for the next century. We then discuss it as a class, and then with a partner you create predictions or hypotheses concerning the impact of global warming. Does this sound like a lesson that you guys would normally do in this class?
We haven't really gotten to most of those topics, but I think at one point or another we probably would get to something like that.
Do you think you would be able to do it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's critical thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because you have to understand why the world is heating up and how to cool it down, because heating it up would definitely be a problem if it goes up to a certain point.
Okay. One research study that we found showed that students self-reported growth in critical thinking when they were involved in discussions of racial ethnic issues over the past year. This can often happen when they're in the classroom, but it can also happen in other situations when the student encounters others who are unfamiliar to them, when these encounters make the students think or act in new ways, or when people and relationships change and produce unpredictability, and when students encounter others who hold different expectations for them. These new situations challenge their current and comfortable modes of thinking. Do you think that as a student, being exposed to racial ethnic diversity improves your critical thinking?
Yeah, because you have to think about where they're coming from is how they're coming up with their answer, versus where I'm coming from would probably give me a different answer from theirs.
Is there anything else you think about critical thinking as a whole? How it helps you as a student?
Not really.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. When a teacher says to you that they want you to use critical thinking skills, what does that mean to you?
It means for you to analyze data to solve a problem.
Okay, to solve a problem. What do you think are the benefits to that? Like, how does that help you?
It helps you avoid the flaws of mistakes and silly errors.
Okay, can you think of any current events right now that you would use critical thinking in the news or anything like that?
Hurricane Sandy and what were the damages to that?
Okay. What about the presidential election? Can you see how critical thinking would help you make an informed decision about who to vote for?
Yeah, the different policies of each candidate.
Okay. One research study that we found showed that students self-reported growth in critical thinking skills when they were involved in discussions of racial ethnic issues. So, as a student, do you think being exposed to racial ethnic diversity improves your critical thinking when you're exposed to new things?
Yeah, sure.
How do you think?
Well, any new topics improves your critical thinking.
Okay. Is there anything else about critical thinking you think benefits you?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, all right. As you can see, the students are not sure what it means when we tell them to use critical thinking skills. They think they need to approach the assignment differently and that more work needs to go into it. We need to ingrain in our students that the benefits of critical thinking does not equal more or harder work. So what are the benefits of critical thinking? Research shows that students who engage in critical thinking are better able to problem solve, interpret and analyze data, ask complex questions, and make informed decisions. These are important life skills that students need to live in our democratic society. Teachers today need to work on instilling in their students that critical thinking pays off and has a use outside of the classroom. Well, that was very educational. What else contributes to critical thinking in the classroom?
Complex questioning, Joyce. Complex questioning. Let's hear from our sports report.
As you can see, sports at this high school is at its all-time high. Snowball activity in the classroom is an essential sport. This sport has students write complex questions to content they are learning on a piece of paper. Students then grabble up their sheet of paper and throw them across the room at each other. Students pick up the paper that lands by them. The students then ask the question that is on the sheet of paper. This activity encourages critical thinking and complex questioning in the classroom. That's it for sports.
That's very exciting in the world of sports. Let's hear from an expert on complex questioning.
Hello, Normal, Illinois. I am Patricia, and this is Mr. Wiggles. We are going to be talking about today an area of complex questioning in the classroom. As an expert in the area of complex questioning in the classroom, I can attest how complex questioning is essential in helping students learn, grow, and achieve, and become knowledgeable citizens. Generating and asking effective questions has been shown to be a vital part of student learning. Thoughtful, higher-order questions have been linked to greater content retention, improvement in problem-solving abilities, higher conceptual achievement, and independent learning. We can see this in every subject area. For example, it has been found that in mathematics, instruction contains problem posing. This can contribute to students' future success in mathematics. Teachers can encourage curiosity and complex questioning by providing opportunities for students to express their curiosity or creativity, and providing occasions for students to ask questions and guiding their search for answers. We can also see this in social studies. One of the biggest problems facing history classrooms today is the reliance on simple questions and simple answers. History is complex, and with that, there needs to be complex questioning. Lesson plans need to be designed to allow students to move beyond the state of passive receivers of knowledge by constructing critical questions, examining data that will allow students to consider those questions. As we can see, complex questioning is indeed crucial to student learning and achievement, and it is essential that it be implemented in the classroom. As part of my expertise, I have seen this firsthand while observing at Normal Community West High School. In a social studies classroom, the teacher models the types of questions students should ask and value students' ideas by having students write practice questions before each unit test, such as the one Mr. Wiggles is holding right here. Now, then, when creating the test, the teacher takes questions from students' practice questions to replace questions he has already created on the test. So this involves students and their own assessment and shows that the teacher values students' ideas and complex questioning. Back to you, Joyce.
And now, Diane, we'll have some type of summing up of everything we've learned today.
Breaking news! The UDL crime busters have come to save the day!
Have no fear, UDL is here!
I'm representation.
I'm expression.
And I'm sure I'm just as important. I mean, I'm engagement. These students need to be more engaged in critical thinking
and complex questioning.
We need to prepare them to be part of our democratic society.
We'll be back. We did it! So, what did we learn today? Well, we looked at what critical thinking is and found out that it is a complex process that analyzes, synthesizes, and evaluates data.
The benefits of critical thinking are that it allows students to gather data and make informed decisions that will allow them to become valued citizens in our democratic society.
And along with this complex process that is critical thinking, goes along with asking complex questions, which Mr. Wiggles and I have done a lot of research on. But complex questions, it really helps get rid of this simple answer syndrome that has in all of our classes. So it's really important to ask complex questions.
Excellent.
I think we learned a lot today about critical thinking.
Yes, we did. Good job, team.
Thanks for watching PDS News. I'm Joyce Kenny.
I'm Diane Simmons.
And I'm Trisha Takanawa. Stay classy, normal. See you next time.
Yeah.
There's not going to be bloopers.
There's not going to be bloopers. You're still recording right now.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, hold on. Redo them. Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and/or evaluating information gathered from or generated by. Today, in our news report, we will be looking at what is critical thinking. Oh.
We have learned about critical thinking and the benefits of it in the classroom and complex questioning.
Well, we looked at what critical thinking is and found out it was a complex process that uses.
Start over.